With the cost of the average home in Guernsey now more than £150,000 higher than a decade ago, it's left many young people considering a future outside the island or relying on parents for financial support to help buy their first home. And some are now questioning whether Guernsey's government should do more to help. Ewan Duncan reports.
Krista's story is typical of many people looking to buy a home for the first time.
There's a lot of time when you're relying on your family members to support you, whether that is through living with them like we did, or even financially as well. I know a lot of people rely on inheritance or gifted loans and that kind of thing to get on the ladder. I don't know anybody who's bought a house recently around my age who's completely done it on their own.
The average salary for an islander aged between 25 and 29 is £38,500 a year, and many first-time homes cost around 10 times that.
So this would be typical first-time buyers, around sort of 350,000. The compromise for something like this might be you're not getting parking, and I think that's the decision people are making. It might be that we want outside space, but we're prepared to compromise on parking. I think it's definitely become more difficult in terms of the lending environment. We've got fewer lenders over here. They become more kind of risk averse. I think banks can do a lot better. There needs to be conversations. I think government can perhaps get involved as well, and maybe meeting the lenders, talking about the service they're providing and asking whether it's good enough.
A group of islanders calling themselves Future Guernsey want politicians to consider a property savings allowance, enabling young people to save up to £60,000 tax-free to put towards buying their own home.
It gives people who don't necessarily have the bank of mum and dad behind them, or have an element of the bank of mum and dad, but it's not enough, that help that we think they need. But it's about a package of measures. So one of the other measures, for instance, would be to scrap document duty for both the developers and the purchasers of new homes that have a less than £600,000 value.
Solutions to help first-time buyers won't happen overnight, leading some to think it could be even harder for future generations. Ewan Duncan, BBC Channel Islands News, Guernsey.
Meanwhile, in Jersey, the government could backtrack on its own policy to help get the property market moving again. It wants to reduce the extra stamp duty people pay on buy-to-let properties. Currently, islanders buying homes that they don't intend to live in themselves pay an additional 3% in tax, but the government suggested reducing it to 2% as part of its latest budget. Emily Bell reports.
In Jersey, it seems there are plenty of houses for sale, and some say the best way to get the market moving is to reduce the stamp duty for buy-to-let investors. But not everyone's keen.
That probably isn't what our priority ought to be right now. Our priority ought to be helping first-time buyers or downsizers or people looking to move within the market, rather than more buy-to-let investors, where I think in years gone by we probably had a lot more of that than we ought to have. That helps skew the market.
Earlier this year, there were actually calls to increase the tax on buy-to-let properties from 3 to 5%. The politician who suggested it said reducing stamp duty for investors makes homes less affordable for others.
I fundamentally disagree with that. I think there are many people who are living in the rental sector. They have aspirations to become homeowners, but unfortunately they cannot afford property in the island.
But many in the industry say the additional charges stifle the market.
It's almost like the final nail in the coffin. So I think when the island is struggling economically, then the government really needs to do something to help assist. So this is just really dampening those efforts. If this continues, we will see further decrease in the housing market.
Meanwhile, some developers think removing stamp duty altogether for a trial period would help the government decide on the best policy.
Ideally, I think a stamp duty holiday is needed, and decisions that are going to be permanent need to be data-driven. And I think that if they gave a stamp duty holiday and actually looked at the additional income from that holiday and the amount of transactions that then go through in comparison to a similar period of time when the 3% was in, they would see where they should actually direct their focus in the future.
So with differing views on stamp duty, it'll be up to politicians to decide what buy-to-let investors pay in future. They'll debate the idea as part of the government budget in December. Emily Bell, BBC Channel Islands News, Jersey.
Guernsey's former top politician Jonathan Le Tocq has appeared in court again this afternoon. He was charged with creating more than 1,000 indecent images of children in August, along with other offences. The 61-year-old has been remanded in custody until the 29th of October, when the case is expected to be committed to the Royal Court. Jersey police are investigating an alleged assault in St Helier in the early hours of yesterday morning. Officers say a group of men pushed another man to the ground at the weighbridge before punching and kicking him. They're appealing for witnesses. And changes to the road layout at the Esplanade in St Helier could give buses priority getting onto Victoria Avenue in an effort to reduce journey times. Ministers are spending £1.5 million on the project, which will take around 10 months to complete. Here's David with your weather.
Thank you, Charlie.